Welcome to Successful Living with Bill Napick. Every week we talk with interesting people in a variety of professions, and along the way, get ideas to enhance success in all categories of your life. Successful Living with Bill Napick starts right now. And here's your host, Bill Napick.
Let's welcome our very special guest. He is Christopher Manske, an award-winning financial advice expert, a West Point graduate, so many other great things, and he is now the author of the brand new book called The Prepared Investor. Christopher, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks a lot. This is a really special day for me. This is the book launch date, and I'm really grateful to be a part of your Successful Living show here, Bill.
So many categories come into how and why we're successful in life, and in all the categories, financial success is very important because it enables us to have other success in relationships, maybe less stress. And you have been in the financial world for many years, so let's tell people, first of all, a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I've got a military background, and when I left the service, I left as a captain in the Army and directly went to work for Merrill Lynch. And it wasn't long before I was recognized in the top fraction of 1% in that firm across the nation. And I trained thousands of advisors for Merrill. And shortly after that, I brought my practice away from Merrill Lynch and have been under the Manske Wealth Management moniker now for almost a decade. And, and today with the book getting launched, The Prepared Investor represents some of my more unconventional thoughts on investing and why I think we are different from a lot of our competition's approaches.
Well, you're covering very important things. We're talking about preventing the next crisis from adversely affecting our financial portfolio as we work so hard, depending how old we are. We work very hard to build that up. I know myself, I track everything financially and I try to make the right decisions, but it's not easy when we have things unexpected happen, and life is full of unexpected things.
You're right, and you're not alone. The unexpected is made worse when the predominant reaction from Wall Street is to do nothing. The typical response from the vast majority of financial advisors across the nation is that they tell their clients, just stay the course, you're diversified. In reading the book, The Prepared Investor, there are very clear, useful, actionable steps that the readers can take to not just stay the course, but to be ready to perhaps go beyond just protecting their net worth, but to even grow it in the face of crisis. It doesn't make sense when you think about it from just a common sense perspective. It doesn't make sense that you cannot prepare for things like a pandemic or, right now there's a concern about will the election be contested? That's exactly the kind of crisis that, my book talks about and explains that it will negatively affect the stock market. And I don't think people would be surprised by that. The next piece of that is, okay, but how do I prepare for it? I think it's more than just a relevant topic. It's an important one.
You have action steps in your book. Before I go any further, I do want to say thank you and anyone listening that is a veteran for your military service. But one jumped out at me, Chris. I like this one. This is just good financial advice. Action step number 4, don't use your savings to buy things that cost money. Instead, buy things that make money. Hey, that makes sense.
Yes. So that action step is particularly important because one of the crises that people are thinking a lot about right now is the overshadowing of artificial intelligence in the workplace. And, this change, it's celebrated depending on your point of view, and it's feared depending on your point of view. Some people are truly concerned about the loss of their effectiveness, their ability to earn a wage because of artificial intelligence. And that particular action step talks to that impending crisis, and the book has a beautiful vignette that there was a lot of very smart people that helped me to gather the information for it, and really describes not just what the issue is, but how to be prepared for it.
So, as far as the people that, when you wrote the book, who did you have in mind, and who do you think this book is going to help most? And we're talking with Christopher Manske, the author of The Prepared Investor.
Well, first and foremost, it's for anyone who has concerns about an unpredictable future. It's for someone who has a worry and they just would like to have an action plan. They would like to have a sense of being prepared. I mean, it's not too different from someone who's, just gotten their driver's license and they're worried that they don't know how to change a tire. Well, with a little bit of education, a little bit of practice, you've got that preparedness. You've got the tools in the trunk, and you're ready for the crisis when it hits. And that's who this book is for, is someone who they would like to be ready. They have a worry about an uncertain future. But it's also written for the finance industry. It's written for my peers, financial advisors, insurance agents, CPAs, men and women who are talking to others and guiding others in their finance. Because right now, Wall Street's typical response, the most common response, is woefully inadequate. It applies occasionally. It really is not a full and complete answer. And so we don't want a stopped clock that's only right twice a day. Let's keep accurate time.
Give us an idea also. I mean, we had no idea in 2020. We have no idea what's ahead in 2021, but we sure were faced with some challenges and some unprepared things to happen. The virus, people moving, getting out of the city, the presidential election, all these things. So how are you getting ready for 2021 at this point?
Well, the first thing that I think of when I think of getting ready for 2021 is that being prepared for a future crisis is no different from being prepared for any future problem. Like hey, the winter's going to come, it's going to freeze my pipes, and there could be water all over the place. I don't know when it's going to freeze. I don't know if it even will, but I do know that there are specific things I can do to get ready for it. I try not to get bogged down in it's 2021 separate from 2020, and instead just try to have a good sense of preparedness for the probable calamities. And when you read the book, you can see that there's a number of things from cyber security to Russia, China, to our current political situation. All of these things that we know a little bit about, we're worried about them. They can easily be looked at from the standpoint of, I don't know when, I don't know if, but I do know how to prepare.
How to be ready. And I want to tell people your website has some great things as well. It is manskewealth.com, MANSKE wealth.com. I encourage them, as I did last time, to go to your profile and check out all the credentials you have. And Chris, with the last few seconds here or so, let's tell people, again, you are the author of The Prepared Investor. People can go to Amazon, get the book right there. I'm looking at that online as well. Before we close out, what else would you like people to know?
Well, I'd like to remind them that this book is a hopeful one. This is a book that tells people that we've been through extremely difficult times before. There's a lot of history in this book, and it serves to tell the story that the next crisis, it will come and go, and there will be another one after that. And the sun will rise tomorrow, and we will prevail.
All we need to do is be ready. The Prepared Investor, Christopher Manske. Thank you, Chris. And let's tell people again how they can reach out to you.
Thank you. So easiest way would be to Google the book, The Prepared Investor. You'll see my website at manskewealth.com. You'll see the various booksellers online like Barnes & Noble and Amazon, wherever books are sold. Looking up The Prepared Investor is the best way to find me.
There you go. Thank you so much, Chris Manske.
Thank you, sir.
Let's talk to Bradford Sterling. He is with Choice Home Warranties, and we're going outside of Texas, outside of Houston, and we're going to find out what's going on in other markets. Specifically, Bradford covers Arkansas and Mississippi. Bradford, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bill, thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, we're going to talk about a few things and get a feel for the market, some of the keys to success, but also let's tell people Choice Home Warranties.
So, Choice Home Warranty has been around for over a decade. We kind of cut our teeth in the direct to consumer sales, so marketing directly to homeowners. But in the last 4 years, we launched a real estate division which markets to realtors and helps out folks within the real estate transaction. A lot of homes that are being sold use warranties as a marketing tool, but also as a risk management tool to help both buyers and sellers within the real estate transaction to protect their mechanical services during those time periods.
And as far as distinctions, I mean, here in Houston, the real estate professionals, we have a lot of home warranty companies. Each one's a little bit different. But when we talked earlier, your company has something that the way that you dispatch the vendors to people that need help for their various situations in their home.
Yeah, so most of your warranty companies out there negotiate rates with certain vendors, and they basically create a contract to where that company will run claims for the warranty company. Problem with that business model is you're very much at the subject to the vendor's schedule. And so when you're sending all your claims to one company, that means service delays. Choice does things a little bit differently. If you've ever used the car service Uber or Lyft, how that works is, you need a ride, you send a call out to those services. The driver that is available and can pick up the call takes the ride. Very similarly, we don't send our claims to one vendor at a time. We send our calls to every single vendor in our network. And so the vendor who is available and can take the call picks up the claim. And so what that means is you as a consumer get taken care of that much faster. The other benefit to that is a lot of vendors who would never work for warranty companies will work with us simply because they know the only time they're going to be running claims is when they're not busy. And so we're able to get a very large vendor network, which again ends up with a wonderful customer experience because you're taken care of that much faster by a qualified vendor.
Interesting, and I think other people may have seen the same visual picture as you described it, but we all have the experience when we do check that Uber, we see those little cars moving around, so that when we have our warranty claim, you have all your vendors moving around, and you get served quicker, and the right one, the closest one, the ready one, comes to your home. Well, and it's interesting in terms of the real estate world, but all businesses, how we evolve and how we learn from each and every other business out there. That is, of course, if we're paying attention. We love to learn about other markets. Let's talk about Mississippi and Arkansas as far as the real estate market right now.
Well, every market is different. So I don't like to paint too broad a brush because if you talk to someone in the Jackson, Mississippi market, they may say something a little bit differently from someone who's in Macomb, Mississippi or Grenada, Mississippi. But overall, the market is very strong. Real estate is moving really quickly. And especially if you have an attractive price on a house, we run into many situations where there are multiple offers. Houston is probably in the same boat. We're running into multiple offer situations, which can sometimes hurt the warranty business because when there are multiple offer situation, a lot of people do not ask for sellers to pay for home warranties. When the market is a little tighter, a lot of sellers will use warranties as an enticement to say, hey, look at this house. We're going to provide a home warranty with the transaction. Whereas when you have multiple offers, buyers and realtors usually suggest, hey, we're going to do a clean offer. We're not going to ask for a lot from a home inspection report. We're not going to ask a seller to put a warranty in place. And so warranties aren't necessarily written into contracts, but buyers, we always suggest, both realtors and warranty reps obviously are going to recommend home warranties just because it helps mitigate risk. A lot of people are buying homes, and other than the inspection report, they don't really have any guarantees on life expectancies or failures of mechanical systems. And so it really behooves the buyer to get a warranty on their own to protect that investment.
One of the trends we're seeing here in Houston, you've probably been to Houston. If you haven't, or those listening, we are a fourth largest city, and we have a center, we have a downtown, and it's like the planet Saturn. There are rings around it, the 610 loop. These are major highways, Beltway 8, 99, so all these things. But one of the things we're finding is, yes, the real estate market is very good, but we're also seeing, and I'm wondering if you're seeing it in your states, and that is people are moving out to suburbs. And in your states, especially, I don't know I know a little bit about Arkansas, not that much about Mississippi, but are you seeing that flee to the suburbs and flee to the hey, I want a house in the woods. I want a cabin in the woods. Are you seeing it?
Well, I would almost say it's a little bit of both. Certainly, it's dependent on the buyer for sure, and a lot of it depends on bang for your buck. Some folks who are trying to cut down on commutes, you will see moving into cities just because it's more convenient. But also with rates as low as they are, I mean, gosh, historically, you're not going to get a better time to purchase a house from a mortgage rate standpoint, and so there's a lot of value to moving out. You can get land, you can get much more house, and so it's going to depend a lot more on opinions of the buyers as to where they go, because I'm seeing folks moving into town, again, just to cut down on commute time, but also in the same instance, people moving out because, hey, I want a much bigger house a little bit further out, want a little bit of land. And so you're going to get a healthy mix of both.
Give us a word. What's happening in Tennessee? So you're kind of in the middle of these two places that you cover. How about Tennessee?
Tennessee is an incredibly competitive market. Your big cities, the Knoxvilles and the Nashvilles, especially of the world, but also in Memphis. If you have an attractively priced home, it is going to get under contract probably within a couple of days. And I've seen as many as 12 contracts written on a single property. And so it is outrageously competitive. Sellers are spending more time prepping their house for sale than they actually do are selling. So they'll spend a week or 2 weeks getting a house prepped for sale, and then the second that house hits the market, it is going to be under contract.
And those are three great states, by the way. Some of my favorites, especially Arkansas and Tennessee. There's so many things going on. Give us a word on Nashville. I just had a friend move to Nashville. You know what's going on over there?
So Nashville has been going under a boom for, I would say the last 5 years easily, maybe even more. Is just absolutely crazy what is happening. What used to be more rough parts of town are now just have a huge influx of construction, really high-end condominiums, townhouses, high-rises. If you've ever even driven into Nashville, on top of the traffic, you will also run into just scaffolding everywhere. The last time I was in Nashville, which is only a couple of weeks ago, I counted like 16 scaffolds where they're just throwing buildings up left and right. And so construction is just at an all-time high in that part of the state. And just, I want to say, don't quote me on this, but there are just hundreds, if not thousands of folks moving there every single month. So they're getting a little bit of the negative side because of the intense amount of traffic that come with that. But you're also seeing a lot of really rising property values because of that too, because what used to be a not so sought after area is now just absolutely hot as blazes, and so folks are paying a lot of dollars per square foot for homes, and so the market is really tight and very competitive.
We have to say a word. You're living in Memphis. Many people think about Memphis, they think of the one and only Elvis Presley, right? And that way, he loved Memphis for some reason. He made his home there, and I guess Graceland continues to be a solid attraction. What's that like, living in the town where Elvis once lived?
So it's funny. I was born and raised in the city, and when you live in a town, you become somewhat immune to the quote tourist traps. Yeah. I didn't make it to Graceland until I was 30 years old. I'm 46 right now, wow. And I went through that house and could not believe that I'd lived here my entire life and not gone. I think it's a fantastic tour. Elvis lived an incredibly charmed life, and Memphis is still in the grips of his aura, for lack of a better term. It's a wonderful area. Right next door to the mansion, they just put in a really high-end hotel and concert venue, which is fantastic. I mean, every single week, hundreds and thousands of folks from literally all over the world descend upon Graceland because Elvis still is an icon despite him being gone for so many decades. When I was there were tourists from Germany, from Japan, amazing. I mean, from all over the world. So it's a fantastic sight to see not only the house and the story about the man, but in addition to all the crazies that come out, dressed in full jumpsuits and doing their best, even though they technically don't allow impersonators to come in while you're doing the tour. Folks are still just absolutely crazy about the man and his career.
As far as success, now you're managing your territory. I think real estate professionals always want to borrow ideas from others, whether it's home warranty, realtors, mortgage people. What are some of the things? It's very competitive, Bradford. What are you doing to distinguish yourself as far as relating to the real estate market? Give us a quick tip or two on your success.
Well, a lot of times when you're dealing with realtors, and again, my job is to influence the real estate transaction. I want to be there for realtors within a real estate transaction to help both buyers and sellers. Since we are in such a tight market, warranties can sometimes be on the back burner. So in addition to just being available to both realtors and buyers and sellers, and from an available standpoint, that just means answering the phones, when problems arise because mechanical systems fail at sometimes very, very inopportune times. You can have a failure 2 weeks before a house closes, which can be an absolute nightmare. So being able to answer the phone, being able to help buyers and sellers negotiate situations like that is always a differentiator. A lot of times phones going to voicemail can always be frustrating, but also I like to provide strategies for realtors, buyers, and sellers to help get homes sold. When you're in a very, very tight market, again, warranties can be on the back burner, but there are strategies to really even help an offer stand out. When a home is in a multi-offer situation, a lot of times warranties don't even end up in the offer. But as a buyer, an interesting strategy that some realtors overlook or sometimes don't even think about is, as a buyer submitting an offer that's different from another buyer, you can actually provide a warranty for the seller. So instead of saying, hey, Mr. Seller, I want you to buy a warranty, say, hey, look, I'm going to buy the warranty for myself, but I'm also going to protect you as a seller during the listing period. So providing strategies to really help realtors get deals closed is a wonderful differentiator. Policies are going to be policies, but many times just being there and providing those little tips and tricks for customers can differentiate yourself from the competitors.
That is correct. In fact, that tip is worth its weight in gold, in my opinion. Bradford Sterling, he's with Choice Home Warranties. Bradford, let's tell people how they can reach out to you. They may want to give you a call if they're in Arkansas, Texas. A lot of people in Texas are buying homes in those areas. In Mississippi, how can people reach you?
We have sales reps all over the country. We have two individual reps that work the Houston market. And so very similar to getting homeowners insurance, many times people don't refer you to a company. They will refer you to a representative. You can contact me on my cell phone number. All of my cards, all of the brochures I put out have my face and my cell phone number on it. My cell number is 901-870-2334. We have a dedicated real estate website, which is chwpro.com. Choice Home Warranty, PRO.com, and that is for real estate transactions, but homeowners can also benefit from this plan. Choice actually has several different plans, both direct to consumer and real estate. Our real estate product, in my opinion, is the most comprehensive and best policy, but you can reach us either through our website or directly to one of the outside sales reps. And again, to get more information, I would talk to a real estate professional or go to our website. Once you go to chwpro.com, you can actually put your zip code in, and the outside sales rep, their picture and their cell number will pop up.
Once again, your number is
901-870-2334. 901-870-2334.
There you go. Thank you so much, Bradford Sterling, Choice Home Warranties.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.